And we're back for another casual conversation with the classic. And look who decided to finally show up to record her episode.
Better late than never.
I guess that's true. I guess since you are, like a diva now, I guess you can take your sweet ass time, right? I don't know.
I mean, next time speak to my agent.
I know. I thought we were friends. I had to like go through like 13 people. What is this? I'm joking. Anyways, how are you? How's it going? This was actually going to be another one that's very casual because we are friends and we do talk off and on for the last like I don't know how many years. So what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. I'm just chilling. Quarantine, so not.
How's that going for you?
When it first started, it was like really horrible because obviously I felt like I was missing out on so much wrestling because everything got cancelled, and it's like you work so hard to kind of get these opportunities. So that kind of bummed me out for a little while. But then after that, I was just like, okay, like how can I be creative? How can I keep content? Because people like I have a YouTube and Twitter and stuff, and people follow me, and I'm like, how can I keep them entertained with something? So I've done like a lot of YouTube, and I've kind of been channeling myself into that a little bit. Just trying to keep busy and stuff. Like I'm sure you understand, like you're doing a ton more content on your socials. Yeah, I hear we all are because of that.
Yeah.
But, which it's been good in a way because it's like really allowed you to kind of like focus your time on it. Like for me, YouTube's something that I started before I ever started training, just as like a wrestling fan, talking about wrestling, and then I shared all my training. Then I shared like my first match and me on the road. And like the reason I made it was to share my wrestling, but I also wanted people to know me, and I wanted them to get to know other parts of my life. But I never had the time because I work full time and then I wrestle at the weekend, so I had like no time to ever make videos. So it's kind of been nice to actually just have time and freedom to kind of get on here and make something different for people and kind of give them access to kind of my life in a way. So there has been like some good things out of it for sure, but it's been tough, like not wrestling and not kind of getting that outlet.
I can totally relate with you, but first things first, my bad. Once again, this was super casual because we are friends and we've known each other so long. For those who don't know, this is Mariah May. She is a professional wrestler in the independent scene in the UK. She's a YouTuber. She's a content creator. She's a model. She's a stylist. She's so many things above that. For those that don't know, because once again, we're talking to each other like we're just catching up.
We're just like on the phone.
And I forgot to introduce you. I've known Mariah since I think it was definitely 2016 because I remember the situation. And I remember seeing you. I'm just gonna give a background of how we met. I remember seeing you rocking a Seth Rollins shirt. I think it was on Twitter. And freshly out of a relationship, I was like, hey, like, who is this girl, this pretty girl in the wrestling shirt? So I went and I DM'd her and found out she was from the UK. So any idea that I had was never going to happen. And then in our first conversation, she started talking about how big of a wrestling fan she was. And, obviously there's that odd stigma that, a lot of females aren't wrestling fans, or they're wrestling fans because they have brothers or dads that watch wrestling or boyfriends that watch wrestling, or they think the guys are attractive, or, it just does bad stigmas, right? Don't get me wrong. But she was genuinely a wrestling fan. In our first conversation, she mentioned to me, and at this time she was kind of just modeling. Her YouTube hadn't launched yet. A bunch of things hadn't happened yet. She hadn't even started training. But in our first conversation, she mentioned to me that she wanted to be a professional wrestler. And it's crazy now we're in 2020 and you're like you were wrestling almost like every weekend last year of 2019. You were booked for shows weekend after weekend. And I'm like, that's so crazy going from like a girl who just wanted to be a wrestler. And I remember creeping your page and you had you dressed up as the Dudley Boys. You had a DI. I'm like, oh, she's actually a wrestling fan. And like you had a birthday cake that was a wrestling ring or a belt or something. I'm like, oh, this chick's like legitimately a wrestling fan. So I want to pose to you, like, when do you first remember seeing wrestling? When did you become a wrestling fan?
So I've watched wrestling for as long as I can remember. I've always been a fan. And, I had older brothers, and I think that's one of the reasons that I watched it so much. It's just because, I wanted to do everything my brothers did, obviously. Being the younger sibling, that's what it's like.
I'm the only girl. You're the only girl.
Yeah.
Two older brothers, right? Yeah.
And it's crazy because it's like, then, when they got a little bit older, they kind of moved on to other things, but I never did. And like, it just stuck with me. And I think, we're all wrestling fans. If you're watching this, you're probably a wrestling fan. And it's a hard thing to describe to people who don't watch it, but it's like, it's just the best thing. If you like wrestling, it's the best thing you can watch because it's just like sports, it's entertainment, it's everything all in one. And yeah, like I've watched it for as long as I can remember, and obviously always been a huge fan. And then as I kind of got older, people would kind of jokingly say it to me. They'd be like, "Oh, you'd be like a great, like I mean, at the time, diva." So
Yeah.
they'd be like, "Oh, you'd be like a great, diva and stuff." And like my mom would always say, "Oh, ha, ha," and I'd be there like, "Please, like this is my dream." And then when I kind of left school, I think when I spoke to you as well, it was like I really wanted to do it, but it was like, how do I do this? And wrestling in the UK now is huge, but I mean, we're going back to what 20. This was before the UK Championship tournament, and
Way
when the UK,
before.
yeah, and it's like there was no NXT UK, and with WWE making such a huge deal out of the British independent scene, it's made a lot more independent promotions pop up, a lot more women's wrestling, which because I talk to girls who've been around for years, and they say like there was literally never a women's match on the card. So like I'm quite lucky to be coming in where I am, where I can wrestle every single weekend. There is women's wrestling on the cards. There are shows for me to wrestle at. But this was like before even that, and like I couldn't even find a school. Like it was so tough, and I remember that's what we spoke about. Like we just go around it, and then eventually I found somewhere, and it was like eventually taking those first steps. But it's a daunting thing to like do that, and I think especially like where I was, there was nowhere to train, so I was like, what do I do? And also like being a girl. And, at the time, like, I think when I first wanted to do that, so this is, before I even knew you, when I first wanted to do it when I was at school, so I was like 16, I was like, my parents were like, I don't really want you to go like on your own, like you're 16, like,
Yeah.
So it is a tough thing to kind of like start, but, once I started training, it was just like the best thing ever.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. Like first things first, one thing, because I know you, I can kind of unpack these things. You always knew you wanted to be a wrestler. You've always been a wrestling fan. I remember you told me years ago you remember like seeing, I think it was like MVP and Kane and like Undertaker and Ken Kennedy. Like that was your first memory of watching wrestling on TV, and you were like fascinated. Obviously, a lot of us that follow you and have followed you throughout the years know that you have this love for Trish Stratus, and like that's your dream match, and she's like your favorite women's wrestler. But besides all that, like I like tell people like you've kind of been leading up to this, like in your mind you've known you wanted to do wrestling, like and you've indirectly you've kind of prepared for it. Like you have like an acting background too from school, don't you?
Yeah, so like I say, massive wrestling fan, and I always loved, I was one of those kids like I just loved like entertaining. I always wanted to like dress up and do all that kind of stuff. And like when it kind of got to school, and that's kind of when you start kind of taking the first steps to your future, I guess. And you start doing different things, and like I did a lot of sport, and I did a lot of sport because I was good at it, and like I enjoyed it.
You're athletic. You're an athletic person.
Yeah, I mean I don't know how, because you wouldn't think of it. They're like I was super athletic, and they were like you have to be in the team.
But,
I'm like.
Okay, I think that growing up with two brothers still helps at that, because they probably forced you into the net, shooting soccer balls at your head or footballs at your head. My bad. Like you've been prepared.
So like that was something that like I would kind of naturally take to, and then once I actually got into it and I started training, I loved the whole like concept of just improving and getting better. Like for me, I just kind of like. I kind of found like an outlet there in the sense of like I can improve, and it was just amazing to me. Like if you put the work into something, you can actually get better. So I did a lot of sport, and I did actually enjoy it because I enjoyed the kind of practicing, which a lot of people won't say. They'll be like, "Oh, I didn't like the practicing for it. I like the event." But like for me, I kind of liked having that routine, and I liked the way that it made me feel and just the sense of accomplishment. And then I loved acting. Like I was a real big like fan, and like I just wanted to be.
I mean, I know you can be a little dramatic at times, but go on.
Well, I mean, but like I remember like I for a time I was like, okay, like, maybe I'll do acting because like I love films, I loved theater. I wanted to do theater really badly. I did a little bit of theater and stuff, but I did a lot of school, and then when I left school I did a little bit, but then I just kind of felt like it just didn't quite like satisfy me, and because it's like you kind of got a taste of both things, like and it's worked out well because for wrestling it's good to.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to, because you got the practicing down and that athletic thing down, which is a big thing when you're training and trying to wrestle.
Yes.
You have that acting part, you have experience in it, which a lot of it is facial expressions and telling that story. So you were very fortunate that like indirectly, like you were doing these things that were prepping you for wrestling, even if you didn't know it. Yeah,
and it's crazy because it's like at the time. I mean, maybe I was being a bit dramatic, but like at the time, I remember being, finishing school and kind of feeling like trapped and kind of feeling like so frustrated because I knew what I wanted. Like when everyone's like umming and ahhing about what they wanted to do and stuff, I'm like, I know what it is. And like I kind of had to pretend like I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't want to go and commit to something when I knew I wanted to wrestle. Like I just, my heart was in that place. And it's like, I feel like once you commit yourself to something like that, like especially for me, I can't let it go. So, like, and I did acting and stuff, but I just thought I enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed it. I love telling a story. I love, playing the part, but it wasn't what I wanted. And like you say, at the time I saw it as like, I'm so trapped, I'm wasting time. I'm you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm wasting all this time. Like Sasha Banks is WWE champion. She's only in her early 20s.
Yeah, you used to get really stressed out as if like if you got any older and you didn't make it yet, you weren't gonna make it at all, which I was always like, chill,
by the way,
dude.
I just want to say like I'm 21. So
yeah, you were like panicking. 18 years old. Like I need to be there by 19. Sasha was there by 19. What the hell? I'm like, you got time.
I'm like, Sasha Banks is like the best wrestler and she's like only like in her early 20s, like I'm not doing it right and stuff. And it's like so crazy because at the time I was like, I feel like I'm wasting time slipping away, like so dramatic. And then, you say it now, like when it comes to, for example, my WWE Tryout, when it's come to training, when it's come to like telling stories and being a wrestler, that stuff come in handy. Like that stuff helped. And being, being an athlete, doing sports, that helps you on the side of like being committed to working out, to going to the gym, to having a diet, because that is not easy. And I think because I had to kind of take that when I was like 15, now it's just like, it's not an issue for me. I enjoy it. It's like part of my routine, which I'm grateful for, because, if you don't enjoy that, it's going to be real tough to wrestle. And then the acting's really helped with like the storytelling part and also just putting yourself out there, because I've like made an idiot of myself so many times on stage now. I'm like, I'll do it again. Like, so it really helps kind of break that wall and almost gave me like a head start in a sense, because it's like you've kind of gotten over that kind of like barrier, you're
you put
used
your
to
guard
doing
down.
That. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, I was 18 years old being like, my life is slipping away, I'm not a wrestler yet. But, in the end, when I actually started training at 19, so like life didn't slip away. I'm like, oh, like this stuff has really, really helped me. And I don't know why I was so dramatic about
and I
it.
think sometimes it's just life hits you like that because you get stressed. Because like you were working at the same time as training. And then there's that whole thought of, I'm going to get stuck in this job if this doesn't work out, which in low-key is like motivating because you're like, I need to fuck out of here.
I need to get out.
Which I completely understand. You brought something up there, like how those skills helped you. You have that incident that happened, not incident, but that experience of when they booked you last minute on, I think it was Progress, and you got to play a character. You had to make one up out of the blue, and it worked for you.
Yes. So, wow. this story though, like it's just crazy to me still. So I had 2 matches. I knew I was having a tryout. I trained hard anyway, but like I was taking it up a notch, like really like pushing myself. And then Progress, probably one of the biggest promotions in the UK, like, for most British wrestlers, that's like the pinnacle for you.
For Progress, like when we were talking earlier, and you're like, there wasn't that much going on in the UK as independent wrestling and wrestling as a scene generally. I think a lot of that boom that happened in the last 5-6 years was because Progress got super like underground popular, and then the bigger stars are going to wrestle at Progress. So I've always been a big Progress fan for like 4 or 5 years now. And I remember telling you, I used to watch the chapters, like the first like 22 chapters I've watched, because that's remember, and I used to go to you and I'd be like, yo, I'm like, there is wrestling in the UK, trust me, man, this Progress stuff is bumping. Like, and then you were on it and I haven't watched it for a while and I'm like, oh man, but go on.
Yeah, so it's huge, and it's like I went to help out, so me and a couple of the trainees who went to help out, and they knew who I was because I was having a tryout, and they said like, can you go get your gear and step in, because like there was a travel issue. So Tony Storm, probably like one of the biggest wrestlers in the UK, she can't come, and I'm thinking, there's some Progress. I had to take Tony Storm's place for Progress. So I'm like going to get my gear, like, and like I get home, I'm like putting tan on, like having a breakdown, like putting all my gear in the bag, like trying to sort myself out. And like I even remember, like I was waiting for my Uber, and like I remember my dad came out, and like my dad, he's very supportive, but my family, they don't know wrestling that much. My mum watches Total Divas, so she does know quite a lot from that, but they get it, but they don't like watch it, so they don't understand. If it was like football, for example, which is kind of your household sport, they'd really understand. And it was really nice because my dad came out and waited with me, and he was like, "Right, just calm down. Like, it's fine. You train all the time. It's no different from theatre. Just have fun." And I was like, "Oh," just literally freaking out. And then, so it was an 80s themed show, and which was, well, I feel like was good because obviously, like, I had 2 matches, so I had not even an inkling of my character. Like, my character was
young Mariah hitting the scene for the first time.
Oh, I put it the wrong way. I was putting it out the window.
It's okay, but go on. This is the first time I'm messing with these pictures, so this is fun. Go ahead.
I'm really confused. Oh, it's because it's the other way around. Anyway, so it was an 80s show, which I think was a good thing because, like, you know, I had 2 matches. I was literally just Mariah, the trainee, trying to prove herself. And I was like, how does that translate to progress? Because as you say, like, you know, it's a huge deal. And like the people on there, they have these amazing characters and stories and stuff. So I'm like, well, I'm going to be like a fish out of water. Like, I'm going to really stick out. And then I was like, it's an 80s show, like, chill out. So I was just going to do a glow character, which I didn't realize. So I came up with a character, right, in the cab. So I came up with a like fitness instructor from the 80s. You know, they wear like the sweatbands and they're like, let's get physical. And so I had that as my song. And you had to do a promo as well. So, you know, really throwing you in the deep end, but it was amazing. Like, I got to do a promo and like the setup's incredible and stuff. And, you know, I did this like really goofy, funny promo because my character was just like really like goofy and into like her fitness and stuff. And yeah, and then I had a match in front of like 400, 500 people, and no drama.
It's so crazy because, like, I know you, and I've known we've talked at the point of where we've talked about characters and like promos and how to do this and what you could probably do and what you could do here, and you have notes of like different character ideas and promo ideas and outfit ideas and all this stuff, and then you get put on a spot to make a character on the spot, and you just roll with it. Which speaks a lot on your ability to be like, well, okay, fine, we'll run with this, because I know you're an overthinker. Like, I can say for a fact, I know you're an overthinker. So the fact that worked like that, like, that's amazing.
The funniest thing, though, that I didn't really put together till afterwards is like they were just going to have me be, you know, Glow, kind of the Glow character. So I guess like just an 80s like women's wrestler, like, you know, so like it was there for me. Why did I like overthink and make up the character? But they loved it because they said you know, she stepped in at the last minute and she came up with a character, you know, dance and entrance, all this stuff, and she did a Trainers Proud, which made me really happy because I thought, and I think that comes from, you know, what we talked about of like being prepared for something before it even happens. Like, you know, before I even started training, I always wanted to become a wrestler. So I was always practicing promos. I was always working out. I was always like almost being a wrestler without actually doing the wrestling. And then once I started training, again, always training, always working out, always practicing promos. So I guess when you're put on the spot, even though, I've only had 2 matches, like I was able to kind of, use what you know, calm down, like use what you know, and like come up with this character and try your best. And, you know, and also like the crowd was so, like lovely. Like, you know, they were really, really nice because I was scared. I was like, are they going to eat me alive? Like, are they... Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, the match was simple. It was solid. Like, I watched it back. I was like, oh, thank God. Like, you know, but it was really simple. And, you know, you say you've watched Progress. Like, you know, some of the matches, they have like these 20-minute matches. They're incredible. So I'm thinking like, you know, we're keeping it pretty sweet. Like the biggest thing is probably like a Hurricane Rana. Like we're keeping it like simple, right? Obviously, rightly so. Because, you know, it's my 3rd match. You shouldn't be going out there doing all sorts, right? And I was scared, but the crowd, they just had fun and they loved it. And it was an 80s show, right? So, you know, it was so fun and so many funny characters and stuff. And I think it was a good one to step in on the 80s show because you kind of got to kind of have all that and kind of like almost not just like be in the character and not be Mariah on your on your 3rd match. You'll just be in this character. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
It's just a different feeling. You're like, I can mess up with this person. It's not messing up as me.
Yeah, it's fine. And then when like you say silly things happen, like you kind of just play it off in your character. Whereas if it's you on your 3rd match, you might look a bit like, you know, now like you wouldn't even notice. But like back
how
then,
long ago was your first match?
Like a year, like over a year now.
Over a year. So you've only been wrestling for like a year and a little bit. Yeah, just pretty impressive.
I mean, Progress was like 4 months in or something.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
So let me ask you about this because I don't want to forget about it when we're running out of time. So I'm gonna ask you this and we'll go on to other stuff I want to talk about. This WWE tryout. How much are you allowed to share with us? How was that? What was that all about? How'd that go?
Oh, it was amazing. You know, funny story, right? I was at Raw. Raw was in London. So me and my friend Jess, we went to Raw the night. Well,
I do want to point out, I love how every time you went to wrestling shows, they always found a way to get you on the camera. Shout out to the WWE production team. Because I'd always be the one, I'd be like, I found it, I got the clip, and I'd clip it up for you, and I sent you,
oh my
on
god,
camera. The best one was the Roman Reigns one.
Oh my, I'm like a lunatic.
Do you remember what'd you say to Roman?
I'm like, get him, Roman! Get him now! And then like one of those like angry mums, I'm like, get him!
You were so into it.
Braun is like, you know, this huge beast of a man. Like he's even bigger in real life. He's there in front of me and I'm like, get him! Everyone around me is like, what?
Watching it back, if I can find the clip, it's actually really funny. But go on. So
funny.
You were at Raw in London.
So that Raw with Jess, and you know, beforehand, you know, we had like a meal. It's always like really nice. Like we make like, you know, a little night out of it. We always have a nice meal before, and then you watch Raw, and you know, we're sitting there having a meal and stuff. And she was saying, I mean, how many matches have I had at this point? Maybe like 2. So we're, you know, having a chat, and she's like, you know, when do you think you'll like, you know, maybe try for WWE and stuff? And I'm like, oh, like I'm like nowhere near ready. Like, oh my god, never. Next morning, wake up to an email. And I even text my coach and I was like, is this real? Like, I thought it was like a joke because, you know, my, some of my emails are like on my Instagram for collaborations and stuff, but obviously anyone could email you and they could send you like whatever. So I'm thinking like someone's, you know, having me on. And he's like, no, it's real. And I'm like, oh my God, like crying all day. And then I'm at work and everyone's like, you seem like really like quiet. Cause I'm like, you know, when you're so like happy, but then you can't tell anyone and like, why are you so quiet? I'm like, no reason. And then, you know, like, just like a loser out there, like trying to hold into it. And everyone's thinking, like, what's wrong with Brian? I'm like, just really happy. I'm just having a really good day. Like, just
having a really good day.
Just having a great day. It was crazy, though. It's crazy how life works. I'm sitting there the night before saying to my friend, like, no way, I'm never ready. Then I get asked to do it. And then, you know, that day I spoke to my coach and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I've trained for a year. I trained like 2 or 3 times a week in the ring. I trained like literally almost every day, excluding rest days in the gym. Like even you and I, like, you know, how much we talked about it and sent promos and things like that. Like I had been sort of unaware, but I was preparing for this moment really.
You were mentally preparing for years.
And, you know, and then obviously like I stepped it up a notch before, kind of trying to get in the best like cardio I could. But yeah, and it was crazy because like, you know, I think, you know, my trial, I had an amazing time. I learned so much. I think I did well, and it was like crazy that I doubted myself so much. But like when it came to the drills and stuff, I killed it. Like, you know, and it's like it just shows that when you work really hard for something and you love something and you're passionate, that you can get those opportunities, and not to doubt yourself, because immediately my first instinct, as always, doubt myself. And it's like, you didn't need to do that. And also my fear as well was like, NXT UK, everyone on it is an established wrestler. They've been wrestling for years, right? It's not like in America where it's a full-time facility and they bring people in from different backgrounds. They bring people in early on because they can train them. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, and seeing the other girls, I'm like, I'm so new, like I'm going to be terrible. And my coach is like, Mariah, they know you've only had 2 matches. They're not, you know, they're not anticipating your AJ Styles. Like, what, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, they just want to meet you. They just want to know you. And I just think it's an important, like, you know, thing to know. It's just like to always just believe in yourself and always try your best and work hard for something. Because if I had doubted myself, then I wouldn't have done as well as I did. I just believed in myself and was aware of the fact, like, you know, they know who you are. They know where you're at. They're not expecting you to be something you're not. Be yourself. You work hard. Show them what you can do, you know?
And that was a good first impression, right? Like, you got to go in there, now they're aware of who you are. And when, you know, when the time comes again, they're more ready, you know what to expect, and they know what to expect. And you've had wrestled a shitload more, if I may say, mind my language. I remember, like, it was obviously, you know, I follow you obviously, and then like every time I'd go to your
hope
page,
so.
I mean, you know, and every time I'd go to your page, I'm like, you'd put those posts up with all the shows you booked for, and I'm like, yo, this girl's wrestling like every week, you know, like it's wild. Yeah, that's crazy. And like, you know, I'm would not be shocked to see you on NXT UK or NXT regularly or WWE and any like very soon in the future. Like I've been saying that since way back in the day. I don't know. I thoroughly believe you. You were the first TWC girl. You were the first one to rock the TWCT. Like, who is this person? Do we even know who she is?
Wait, I need to point the right way.
Is she like? Do you look small petite little Mariah before the fitness kicked in, and
before I ate 4,000 calories a day.
What a difference, right? Look at that. I want to
see
talk.
Me now, I look like I've ate her. I'm like,
I think we're all on quarantine diets. It's a whole different story. But I do want to talk about all of that because yes, you're wrestling, you're doing all of that, but I don't think enough credit, because once you started wrestling, I'm sure everyone's like, oh, she's wrestling, she's a wrestler, and a lot of people know you for like the wrestler. I was almost surprised the other day I saw you made a TikTok. I was almost surprised you hadn't had a TikTok yet, because the Mariah I know is charismatic, goofy, full of life, full of energy, and like you said, somewhat an indirect entertainer. Like, you like to entertain, whether it was modeling, whether it was making YouTube videos, whether it's some sort of content you could do. You enjoy doing it. Like, you get a kick out of it. You get really stressed out editing it and putting it together.
Yeah.
But you get a kick out of it. Like, if you could just have someone edit all your stuff, it'd be like the best thing in the world.
It would be the best thing.
You were the girl that bought yourself your own director's chair with your name on it, or someone bought it for you. But
my mother bought me it. Because I directed a play. I did not buy myself a director's chair. My mother bought me it.
That just describes who you are. And I've seen you go through the ups and downs of what you want to do. Was it like, whether it was creative, funny, like challenge videos, maybe I should focus on fitness, maybe I should focus on this, because you are like, you got a lot of personality. So what I want to talk about is your YouTube channel. How's that going? How's everything going? Where are we at now?
Yeah, so, with a lot of what you just said as well, I think, we spoke when I was like 18, 19, right? And I said I wanted to do YouTube. I wanted to kind of do more content because I enjoy it. Like, and it's funny what you say about editing, but I probably couldn't have anyone else edit for me. I am like such a perfectionist that I need to do it all. Like, I do my own setup, do my own hair and makeup, edit it, film it, come up with it all. Like, I'm almost like that precious over it. But what I will say, and what I wish I could tell myself, is like, loosen up. Like, don't be so married to an idea. Don't be so like pressured about what you can and can't do, in the sense of like, if you wanted to make a funny video, make a funny video, like a challenge video, make a funny challenge video. If you want to do hair and makeup, do that. If you want to do fitness, do that. Like, I was aware of my brand, and I think almost to a point that hindered it. Whereas like now, when I'm just being myself and showing people who I am, the engagement and the reception that I'm getting, and people are like, thank you so much for posting. Like, this has kept me so entertained in quarantine. And I'm like, you know what? I'd take that over me being like so like micromanaging myself to the point of like only posting one video a week, like really boring, like no personality, maybe like a fitness thing. Because even the fitness videos that I'm doing, like, they're quite fun and bubbly and like real. And I think that's the important thing, is like, I am 21-year-old girl from the UK. I'm somehow a wrestler, and like, when you look at my journey, it's just the most craziest thing ever. And it's like, why can't you just be her? Like, you don't have to be this kind of package already. This is who you are. And like, I wish I could tell myself that, so I could have almost started earlier. Just be yourself. Don't be so worried,
You were really big on trying to build a brand, which I probably did hinder you a bit. I can contest for that, because there was stuff you're like, I don't know. I'm like, it's fine, just put it out. It's okay. But did that help at all? Like, because obviously the one thing that was kind of on your says you did build a following, kind of being an influencer and whatnot through social media. You did kind of build a YouTube following. You allowed people to follow you on that journey. How has that helped you when it came to wrestling?
Like, so much. And what I will say about the, you say gain followers from being an influencer. So, I love being creative, and like, as much as I hate editing, I actually enjoy it. I enjoy the process. I enjoy putting
trust me, I complain about it too, but then I love doing these. So it's a part of the thing,
Yeah, and it's like, I always enjoyed that, and I, when I left school, like, I always wanted to be a wrestler, right? But then I enjoyed Instagram. I enjoyed like dressing up and like almost styling myself and doing pictures and stuff. And like, when it came to like, okay, like, how can I make Instagram business? And it's like, you have to get followers. I go, okay, how do I get followers? And it's like, you kind of have to have a brand. So, you either have to be a fashion person or a fitness person or a cooking person or, whatever. There's all sorts of different markets.
But isn't it weird that you got to kind of be a little bit of everything and it worked for you?
I got to be a little bit of all of it, because basically what happened was, I think I chose fashion. And like, I like fashion. I've got a couple of fashion videos on my YouTube. I like it, but I'm not like an expert. It's not my life. It's not how I feel about wrestling, for example. And then I remember, like, I think I spoke with you a little bit about it, and like some of my other friends, and they're like, "Why don't you just post about wrestling? Because that's what you like." And the
Yeah.
minute that I posted about wrestling, and the minute that I started being myself, people reacted to it. People started following me, talking to me, and like I talk back to them, and they're like, "What?" And like it's like the minute I started being me and not like a almost boring, like watered
Yeah.
down version of myself trying to fit a quota of like, oh, fashion, give me fashion followers, and like start being, and then I got wrestling followers, which for me was amazing. I'm like, oh, I can talk about wrestling. I actually like wrestling. Yay. Like, you know, and it was like, you know, the minute I started being myself, and that's the same thing with YouTube. Like the minute I was just like, just be yourself, like people receive it so much better because that's what they want. You don't want to see someone trying to be something they're not. You want to see someone like
Yeah.
being themselves. And in a way, that has built my brand to like what it is now. And it's enjoyable. Like I enjoy making content because it's organic. It's me. It's something that I like, and it's crazy because we talk about it, right? And it's like I remember trying to fit into this box of like just fashion, and it
Yeah,
was
because
just
I remember
wrong.
you would be like, "Oh no, I think that's way too many wrestling posts in a row. Like, I need to, like do this." And I know because there obviously is a behind the scenes struggle that a lot of people that aren't trying to be influencers don't get. Is
Yeah,
because people do judge you by your page. If they're like, "Oh, she seems like she's doing too much wrestling," then you lose those sponsors. That might be too much fashion. If you're doing too much
fashion. Yeah,
fashion,
that
you might
was the
lose those
problem.
sponsors. That
Yeah,
might be too much wrestling. But at the end of the day, like if you're building a brand, as much as we want it to monetize it and whatnot, you also want it to be you. So it's like,
yeah, because you want to enjoy it, and also like what I will say about that is, so I remember, so I was trying to fit myself in this fashion box, and I was getting sent clothes and things like that. And I remember saying to you, like, the best posts were my wrestling posts, and the posts that I enjoyed the most and actually could talk to people on were my wrestling posts because I knew what I was talking about. I enjoyed it. And I remember saying to you, like, oh, am I going to lose like my fashion sponsors because maybe it's too much like wrestling stuff? But then I got WWE Shop. They sponsored me and they sent me stuff. And it's
yeah.
like, if I was too scared to be myself at the risk of losing things, because anything you do in life, you're going to take risks, you're going to miss out on stuff. I would never have got sponsored by WWE Shop, which being sponsored by them, amazing for a
And you were
start. Like I
Mariah
do
Monday for a bit. There was a
Mariah
Mariah
Monday on
Monday. That
WWE
was
Shop.
a
I mean,
thing for like
isn't
weeks
that
straight.
just like mad? Like that's crazy. And I'm just like, if I was too scared to just do what I wanted to do, then I would never have had that. And I just think I wish I could just tell myself, like at 18, just be you. Because ever since I started just being myself, okay, yeah, my followers have grown, but the engagement, the conversation is improved so much. Like we talk all the time, and because people know the real me, and I just think
Yeah.
I wish I could just be like, to hell, look, honey, chill out, post what you want to post, calm
So
down.
I'm gonna ask you this question because I'm sure there's tons of little girls that want to pursue professional wrestling, and like I said, like I know your story. I know it wasn't easy. I know there was multiple wrestling schools until you finally found one. I know the full story. We're not going to go into details and stuff. I know the not being able to wrestle or the all the situations you went through. But one of the situations I think you've probably dealt with a lot, and a lot of women in the wrestling industry have dealt with. Going back to that stigma that wrestling fans for some reason have. We all have insecurities. We all are our biggest critics, but you are very pretty and you're a wrestling fan. Okay. And I know for a fact, because I've been posting you for God knows how long on my page. This is from like 2016, right? The biggest thing I would get, even on my page about you, I've been trying to support you, pump up your followers. I've always been like a number one Mariah May
You
supporter.
really, really have, yeah.
But your advocate, I'm your Paul Heyman. But I'm better looking though. But the one thing that I think you had to overcome, and I think a lot of women will have to overcome in the future as well, is people believing in you because you actually are passionate about this and love wrestling, but other than thinking like, oh, she's only doing this or getting these opportunities because she's pretty. How
Yeah.
have you? I know that's a heavy question that people probably don't ask you, but I was there for a lot of it, and I
Yeah.
know you've overcome it, and I know you proved
Yeah.
yourself. But what did you do? If there's a little girl out there, if you could talk to 18-year-old Mariah and tell her, hey, you're gonna go through this, what would you tell her?
I would just say a lot, I would say, but the
I
first
know.
thing is just, your skin gets thicker. So all those comments that maybe might have, like, because the thing is, it's like I went through multiple phases of it. So like when I first started going on Instagram and then kind of getting some mean comments, not to do with wrestling, you
Mhm.
kind of have to deal with that, and you kind of want to like tear their heads off and like engage in it, but then you realize like, don't do that. Like, who cares about some sad person sitting at home talking about you? And like at the time I was like 17, I'm like, you are a loser talking about a 17-year-old girl, because like these people are not, they are adults, they're not teenagers. You know, so first of all, I just said like your skin gets thicker over time, because I went through that and that felt like the end of the world. And then a month later, I couldn't care less. Then I went through what you said about, oh, she's not genuine, like she doesn't actually like wrestling. Like, all right, pal, I just watch it for fun. Like I just watch it for fun, you know. And I went through that, and that like felt like the end of the world. And then I got over it. And then I had my match, my debut match, and I got like some really nasty comments on that, and that really, really cut deep. And then a month later, I just didn't care. And it's like, I know this sounds bad, because you shouldn't have to be strong. It shouldn't happen to begin with, but it does. And what I would say to any young person out there pursuing anything, you know, whether it be wrestling or anything else where you're going to be exposed, I would just say, do not worry about it. Some things can be constructive criticism, but things like that, where they're just saying something that you know isn't true, like, you know, that's not true, don't let it get to you. And I know that's easier said than done, but eventually that will just feel like nothing. Because the amount of horrible comments I get, like even today, like I got like 10 horrible comments, but it's just like, who even cares? Like, you know, and I just think, don't ever feed that attention, because you know who you are and what you're worth. And that, what you said about people saying, you know, oh, she's, you know, just a model, or like she, you know, she's only doing it to get followers and stuff. There are many easier ways that I could get followers, many, and I'm not doing it for followers. Yeah, you could make a business. Yeah, you can utilize it, but I'm not doing it for that reason. If I wanted to make money, I wouldn't be a wrestler. I think being an independent wrestler is not like
not financially.
It's not like, you know, hey, money belt. You know, it's just like, it's not easy. And then also like in terms of getting followers on Instagram, I don't think wrestling is the best way to go. And so like it was just so dumb. And like for a while, I think I tried to like argue with them, and I tried to like, you know, prove them wrong, but they knew what they wanted to think, and you're never ever going to change their mind. All you can do is be yourself. And I get it in wrestling, right? So even sometimes I go to shows and I wrestle someone, and they're like, oh, like, you know, you were so good, like, oh, like you're such a lovely person, I didn't expect it. And I think, but why? Like, why didn't you expect it? Like, you know, I worked just as hard as you, if not probably harder, and like you just, because of the way I look, or because I modeled like once or twice, I'm now apparently like
stuck
up
or something.
A horrible person who doesn't care about wrestling and is just driving herself hundreds of miles all over the UK to other countries as well to wrestle for like not enough to like live on, just for clout, or you know, just, you know, because I can't. Like it's just it's so outdated and it's so stupid, and it's just like, it's funny because that started on Instagram, but I've actually had to face it in my career. But then what I think is like the best women's wrestler of all time, like the most regarded women's wrestler and the most famous, well-known women's wrestler of all time is Trish Stratus, who was a fitness model. So say what you want, but she overcame that. And how did she do that?
Stigma.
Like,
everyone thought she was just a pretty girl who was good for a manager and she was hot, but nobody thought she could cut in the ring. And then she did.
And guess what? She's pretty. She's a great manager and a great wrestler, because you can be all of them. You don't have to exclusively be one. And it's just like, you know, how did she get to that? She went out every single week and improved and worked hard. And that's why she's like one of my dream matches, which by the way, she accepted my dream match.
We're going to talk about that in 1 second. I do want to just add one thing to everything you said. And just for people that are listening, I do think anything you do that's outside of your comfort zone is usually impractical. And people don't have the same, some people, not all people, because a lot of people do. Some people don't have that same courage to step out of the comfort zone and do something impractical. So when something looks weird to them, they try to make sense of it. And by making sense of it, they try to bring you down. And you can't let that bother you. Because
can I even just demonstrate how stupid it is?
Yeah.
So you posted a picture of me, and I remember this because I never really reply.
Wow. Yeah.
But they were like, oh, she's not even a wrestler. She doesn't even train. And so I went and look at my recent post, because I literally just posted I'd literally just posted a training video, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, look at this. And then one of them went, oh, fair play. Good luck with your journey. The other one, this is photoshopped. I'm like, how would you Photoshop a video of wrestling? Like, if I had the talent to do that, I would not be a wrestler. I would be like making a lot of money, like editing films or something. I mean, literally, like, that's how dumb it is. And also to your point, I know I'm like going on, but this is something that literally ruined like my mental health for years and my confidence.
Yeah.
And I still get it now. And the worst part is I get it from people who are like co-workers and stuff, when they, and it's like, the one thing I will say is, for every horrible comment that you get, how many nice ones do you get? Because on your post, for example, there would be like 10 to 15 like, oh my god, who is she? Or like, oh, that's so cool, she likes wrestling, da, da, da. And there'll be one horrible comment, and that's
the one that stands out.
Like, I posted a picture and it got like 50 comments, and there was one horrible one, and I went, oh, like, how rude is this, and showed someone, and then I was like, wait, why am I reading this? Like, why didn't I read the nice comments someone said of, oh, I just watched your YouTube and I really enjoyed it, or I've just seen your matches, you're really improving, keep it up. Like, no, you're not going to hold on to that. You're just going to hold on to someone saying like you're ugly or something. Like, really, like, it's hard because we're human and that's how we are, but it's just, the one thing I'll say is like, just ignore it and focus on the good things, because like you say, the minute you're going to do something that's unconventional, people are going to judge you. Like, all my school friends, like hardly any of them were there, like, they didn't support me. And then once I actually started wrestling and like getting attention on Instagram, they wanted to be my friend, and I was just like, I don't want to be a friend.
I can relate.
You weren't there for me. You weren't there for me when, like,
I was the weird wrestling guy, and now next thing you know, I got 500,000 followers, and all these wrestlers are following me, and they do cool shit. Now it's all of a sudden cool again. Not saying they never thought it wasn't, like, I wasn't always cool, but there was always, the wrestling thing was always a joke, kind of like, oh, yeah, Batista. Now it's like, oh, you're killing it, and I'm like, I know, but,
wow.
Other than that, I was there for the, I remember being like there was a point we almost talked like every day, and I remember being there for the Nikki one the day it happened. The Trish one has happened a few times. It's two of your favorites of all time, Nikki Bella. You were a huge Nikki Bella fan when we first started talking. We even got a huge argument about John Cena and Nikki Bella breaking up one day. I was right. And
bye.
I was right. She was wrong. But and I also know how big of a fan you are of Trish Stratus and how much it means to you. And both women, at some point in the past 4 or 5 years, either commented on your page or came into a live stream and said, yeah, I'd love to wrestle you one day. I know they're probably just, being nice and stuff. Like, how does that feel? Like, that must be like, not a lot of people, like, I can't sit here and be like the Macho Man's in the comment on my page one day saying, hey, brother, I love your page. Like, I'm never going to get that. And he's like my favorite of all time, I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've had Bret Hart wear my shirt and done stuff with Hogan and Ric Flair and stuff, but this isn't about me. This is about you. But I'm just saying, like, I know how it feels. So how did it feel when you had Nikki Bella comment on your page? I wish I had the picture of that to pop up here, where she said, hopefully one day you guys get to square off in the ring. Then recently, a couple of times actually now, you've had Trish comment at you, whether you dressed up for her as Halloween a couple of years in a row and she recognized you, or like popping into live stream, still remembering who you are, saying she'd love to do that. How do you feel? How does that feel?
You know what? It's like amazing. It's unreal. But you know what? This is like what we just said, is like, why do you care about those horrible comments? Because you got those horrible comments because you put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. But you also got Trish Stratus in a live stream saying, yeah, let's have that match. And like, yeah, you say, they're being nice and whatever, but it's like, that means the world to me. And like, I mean, I wouldn't have got that if I didn't put myself out there. Yeah. And can I just say, like, Trish Stratus and Nikki Bella do not need to sit on Instagram and find, girls who are wrestling, who are fans, and comment. But the fact that they take the time to do that, can I just say how amazing that is? Like, because, the first time it happened was really the Nikki thing. So I was first training, and, it's such an overwhelming experience. It was amazing. And I posted an Instagram post. I had my first bump. I posted a picture and I was like, I had my first bump, like that. And she commented, and not only did she put like, oh, cool, she put, oh, like after a while, like the bumps will feel like nothing. I hope one day we see you in the ring, like, like queen or something like that. She put like a proper, like lengthy comment.
I remember.
On a young girl who's a fan and is trained to be a wrestler all the way in the UK. Like, she does not have to do that.
And you hadn't even had your first match yet at that point. Yeah, just being supportive.
Training. I'd been to like I was on a course. I'd been to 3 sessions. And it's like, the fact that she took her time out of the day to do that is why I look up to her. That's why I look up to Trish, because that is what women's wrestling is about. It's about lifting other people up. And the fact that she took the time to do that for me, I will always remember that, because that she did not have to do that. She could have just seen it, maybe liked it or whatever. She put like a lengthy comment, which shows she read it. And like, I just thought that was so nice. And then with Trish, like I dressed up as her for Halloween once, and then it kind of became like it became a tradition, right? So I had to do it again. And I'm like, shit, Mom, like, help me make a costume. Like, what the hell? I had like 2 days, right? And
can I say, like, go on. Go on.
Both times, Trish commented on both of them, which, like, again, you didn't have to do. And the best one though was, I was on a live just doing an interview talking about my dream match, and Trish came in and she said, like, yeah, let's do it and stuff. And she was like commenting on the live stream, which I think is amazing, to take your time out of your day to do that. But it's just like, as someone who like grew up watching these people, and also like both of them, I feel like in different ways because it's different, generations almost. Because Trish was just kind of like underestimated because she was a model, whereas Nikki Bella was like viciously trolled online because we're now in like an era where you have so much access to social media, so much access to these people. So it's a little bit different, but both of them have overcome that stigma, and like Nikki still doesn't get the credit I think she deserves, and
not fully.
Yeah, and I feel like she never will, and it's because she's pretty, and it's just ridiculous, and it's like she broke her neck.
And the era she started in compared to the era she finished in. Everyone remembers how she started rather than how she finished, when realistically, well, you can say the same thing about Trish. We remember how she finished more than how she started. Like,
and hopefully in like years, maybe, that will change. But
I think your generation and younger will appreciate Nikki.
Yeah,
after my generation, the older get older, and we're just bitter old people.
But it's like, but like my mom, okay, so my mom, she'll watch a bit of wrestling with me. She loves them. Like who knows why? She loves them. And it's just like, they had something about them where they appealed to different women. Like, they appealed to my mom, they appealed to me, and it's like they appealed to so many little girls and stuff. And it's just like, I think it's amazing that they were able to overcome the hate that they did. And especially Nikki Bella, like in the era we live in, social media is so vicious. And like we've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think I got it bad. Like imagine being Nikki Bella with that many followers, being on telly and stuff, and the fact that she still kept her chin up and she got better and better and better and proved everyone wrong. It's just like that's why I look up to them so much. So to have both of them comment on my stuff and acknowledge that I existed and kind of say yeah to a match and stuff, I think
it's inspiring. It's motivating.
Yeah, I can't describe, and it's also like, this is why they're kind of like role models, and this is kind of who I want to be. If I was ever in that position in 10 years where I had a good career, I hope that I would be able to inspire people like that, and I would be able to talk to them and stuff in the way that they do, and that's why I like to do YouTube and stuff, because I think it's so important to talk to the people that support you and put you where you are. And I might not have some of the opportunities I have to wrestle if I didn't have some of the followers that I have supporting me and rooting me on. And like you say, right, when you start something out the box, right, it's lonely. And then when you have these followers online that are like, you can do it, they kind of become like your family almost and your supporters. So it's like, it's amazing.
It's weird because I had this conversation with Emilio Sparks on a different casual conversation that we did last weck. And it was in there, and he's talking about how the wrestling community is really cool because whether we know it or not, like a lot of us have got to become friends just because of our community. And like we sometimes don't really look at it like that. Like we're friends with people. Like for example, you and I would, and I said this to him too because it's true. Like me and him wouldn't have been friends if it wasn't for like Instagram and that community that when I went to New York, I got to hang out. We wouldn't know who we were if it wasn't for social media and this wrestling community. Like don't get me wrong. Like would we have even kept talking if you didn't say, hey, I want to be a wrestler? And I was like, hey, listen, I got your back. I'm going to support you. I like you because you seem like you actually really love wrestling. And then from that point on, we almost talked every day for like 3 years straight. And now, not like we don't talk anymore. It's just we both got busier and you got a boyfriend. Don't mean to break all the hearts out there. But who's also a wrestler, guys. You should go check him out. What's his Instagram?
Danny Duggan Pro.
Go check him out. He wrestles as well. But anyways, the thing is like it's crazy because this community is what brought a lot of people together. And we've all kind of supported and helped each other get up. And I think that's super, super cool. I have 2 more questions for you. And then I'm going to let you go because I know you have to go live.
What time is it now?
It's 12:30. And so I'm going to ask you 2 more questions.
Cool. Awesome.
It's 30 minutes. I know we're supposed to cut it off now.
Yeah, we'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah.
One question. You're from the UK, and this is for anyone that's listening that might be from the UK. I got a lot of followers from the UK as well. I remember you having the same mindset at one point, okay? And I know it's different now because the wrestling is booming out there and there's opportunities in NXT UK. But there was this thing where, like, if you want to be a wrestler in the UK, you're like, oh man, like, how do I get to America? And that was a thing for you too. You'd be like, well, I want to wrestle in America. Like, what am I going to do here? Like, da-da-da-da-da. How do you overcome that, and how do you deal with that if that's a mindset somebody has?
Anything is possible. Take a look at Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven. There's your example. Jordan Devlin, cruiserweight champion, it's from the UK. Like, there's your example, and not just them. There's so much incredible talent here. They've gone to New Japan. They've wrestled in so many different countries. It can be done. And now, obviously, you've got NXT UK. There's so many more promotions around here. There's a lot more women's wrestling for girls out there that might be thinking there's not room for them, and also make room. Make yourself known and change it. I think it's one thing to follow a path, it's another one to make your own. And when you look at these guys, like I say, British Strong Style, who kind of really were the first ones to kind of bridge over, I guess, in such a big way. I mean, like, you're talking about Paige. Like, for me, I remember Paige was all the way from the UK. She's winning the Divas title on Raw. Like, that was crazy at the time. And now it might not be so crazy because we see the UK people on Raw and SmackDown. But, you look back at that, like, it can be done. You just have to work hard, and you just have to not limit yourself. And don't marry yourself to an idea as well. Like, because people always ask me, like, do you want to get signed, or what company do you want to work for? And they talk about some of the bigger promotions in America, or, what do you want to do? And I'm like, look, I just want to wrestle and get better. And I want to wrestle everywhere. Like, I want to wrestle internationally. We've spoken about this a lot. I just want to wrestle internationally, and I want to make a name for Mariah May. And I just think it's important not to marry yourself to something and put, like what I said about Instagram, don't put yourself in a box. Like, do your thing, be open-minded, work hard, put yourself out there, and anything can happen. And proof, if you want proof, just look at the history, And
then last but not least, this is a question I ask everybody. I feel like you've already done a lot of it in this interview. You've already given a ton of it, but if you could give advice to anybody that is wanting to break in, is looking to train, maybe sitting on their driving in the car thinking about wanting to train, or is at the gym listening to this and like, oh man, I wonder how I can do it. What's the advice you would give them?
Do it for a start. That's my first thing, is do it.
I think I used to say that to you all the time. I'm like, just start, just go.
Just do it.
Just do the thing, man. Go do the thing and it'll all be good.
But like, this is my thing. Because it's different, like, with wrestling, like, being such a huge fan and having so much respect for it, it was scary. I'm like, I can't get this wrong. But like, my thing is like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? You're gonna like fail. You're gonna come back in a year. You're gonna, not get it this time, but maybe get stronger and go back, or whatever it might be. Like, what is the worst thing that's gonna happen? What's the best thing that's gonna happen? You might become a wrestler. You might get to live out your dreams. Like, I wish I could just say to myself, like, look, when you're 20, you're gonna be a wrestler, and then I would have just calmed down. And not been so, and enjoyed it more, and enjoyed like the bit before I started training, because that was just anxiety where I was like worried and worried and worried. But it's like, look, you're literally a wrestler now. Why were you even so worried? So my advice would be to do it, to go for it. Don't let fear get in the way. And, practical advice, find a school near you with a reputable coach, make sure that you're going to a school that has a coach who knows what they're doing. Be consistent, be committed. I train like 2-3 times a week. Obviously we're on isolation now, so not the same, but normally speaking, work out. It's so important. It doesn't matter what kind of wrestler you want to be. You have to have strength, you have to have cardio to look after yourself, look after your opponent. I can't stress that enough. Always work out, and it makes wrestling easier, and it makes it more fun physically, because it's easier. So definitely work out, and be respectful, and be open-minded, and just always learn, always ask people for advice, because you never know what advice you might get. It might completely change who you are as a wrestler. So always just ask for advice and be respectful to people. And that's my advice.
Has there ever been a piece of advice that stuck with you very well? Like one thing that someone might have told you that was like...
be ready for anything.
Yeah.
You have to do it. And so like there's been multiple situations. So I think the first time I was ring announcing, I was like a bit... I was doing it. Like I threw myself in there. I was like, I'm doing it. And I was like, oh... Like,
I remember, yeah.
And they were like, look, be ready for anything, because you don't know where you might end up in 1 year, in 2 years, what they might ask you to do. Because you might be a wrestler, and then they might say, can you do an interview? Can you ref? Can you do X, Y, Z? Because you might be on a show, they might not have enough, the ref might, not be able to come. You might have to ref. Like, you don't know what you're going to do, so be ready. And then that comes back to the progress situation. That comes back to so many situations in my life where I've just, like, even, like, certain things, I'm like, just do it. Like, I think another thing with wrestling, I won't go down the rabbit hole, but like maybe learning certain moves and things like that, you might be a bit like, ooh, like when you watch it, it's one thing, and then when you're getting into it, you're a bit like, oh, just do it. Like, think about it and do it, and then do it safely. Obviously, don't just keep
doing the thing, man. Yeah. Where can everybody find you?
Oh, there's a lot of places now. I mean, I'm quarantined. Like you say, TikTok now apparently. So my username,
I was surprised you weren't on TikTok for so long. I'm like, Mariah and TikTok makes sense. It means it makes sense.
I know. I'm gonna make some content this week. I'm like, where do I even start? It's a rabbit hole.
You gotta show people that funny side you have. It's there.
It's deep down. It's in there. But so my username is @MariahMayX. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok, apparently. And my merch is mariahmay.bigcartel.com and prowrestlingtees.com/mariahmay. Gosh, I feel like I'm like plugging a lot here. I'm like, I need like a sign or something.
This is the part where you plug, okay? So that's fair.
I've plugged. I'm done. I've done it.
Well, there you go, guys. I'm gonna let her go because I know she's got some other obligations. She's a busy gal, I tell you.
Busy bee, you know?
Look at her. She just
talk to my agent next time for a better slot.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for being nice to me for the whole interview. I know you didn't want to do this. I'm joking.
It was tough.
Okay there. Anyways, it was great having you on here, Mazzy. Hopefully we get to do this again when you get to wrestle more and the world's back open and we can talk some more and catch up again for another casual conversation, as I like to say, because I don't know how to be professional all the time. I'm working on it too. But it was a pleasure. Thank you. Everyone go follow her, go buy her merch, go check her out, support her. She's a year and a half in. She's just starting, but like I said, everybody has a story, and anyone that's already kind of doing the thing has experiences and advice they can give people that want to do the thing, because it is all about stepping out of your comfort zone, just taking that risk, doing the thing, and just like the key, I think, is just believing in yourself. I know that sounds so cliche and it's easier said than done, but like you gotta believe in yourself.
Once you do it, because you're like everything. Not that it becomes easier, but it becomes like more fun and more relaxed, and like you enjoy the process. Like that's another thing. Enjoy the process, because now I finally started to do that, and I wish I did it soon. Everything in this is like, I wish I could tell 18-year-old me that I'm like some grandma. I'm like literally 3 years old.
You're 21 years old, yeah. That's why we'll catch up again when you're 25, and we'll see what it's like at that point that you want to tell 21-year-old Mariah. Because honestly, and that's the thing, life just keeps moving forward. Things happen. When you fail, trust me, it's a blessing in disguise. Because the more things that you get no's or fail at, the more that you actually appreciate when things do happen. You've had a tremendous journey from, acting and playing sports as a kid to moving into trying to be a social media influencer and building their brand through modeling and YouTubing, being a YouTuber and content creation to, in the back of your mind, always wanting to pursue wrestling from the day, like I said, from the day we first spoke, wanting to pursue professional wrestling. And now you're doing the thing, and you're also doing a little bit of everything else. Like it all kind of came together in just 21 years of your life. People in America are just getting legal at 21. You're like, F that. I'm just gonna go start wrestling by the time I'm 21.
I'm wasting time.
And it's the one thing I'll say for you to cap this off is, at least no matter what happens moving forward in your life or what direction things go, hopefully positive, I'm rooting for you all the way. But 10, 15 years from now, when you look back, there's not a part of you that can't say I didn't try, because you did. You tried. You're making it happen. And I dig it, and I'm a big fan. Anyways,
thanks.
You're
thanks
welcome.
for having me. It's been
of course. I know we'll do this again soon.
Without a time limitation on it.
Yeah, who gave who a time limitation? Anyways, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys all later. Make sure you follow her. This thing's backwards, so this hand. Make sure you follow her. Go do the thing. Go buy her merch. And that's all, folks. Ooh, yeah. Check her out. Dig it.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.